Welcome to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Today, we have a very, very special episode. One of my mentors, one of the persons that I admire the most and whom I learned a lot from, Mr. Sean Terry is here with us.
I am humbly excited.
Thanks for, I know you're a super, super busy guy. You're doing 1,000 things, at the same time. And I appreciate you sitting down with us and then just letting us kind of
Absolutely.
have the conversation.
I love what you're doing. You're rocking out there, creating content, inspiring people, motivating them. Your new show came out at the perfect time. Now people are stuck at home and they're forced to either watch Netflix or they can educate themselves, and you're putting out great content, so it's awesome.
Yeah, it's either Wheel of Fortune or listening to a cool podcast. So one of the two.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and I learned from one of the best in the industry. So hats off to you on that. So yeah, man, I want to jump right into it. We for those who don't know who Sean Terry is, you're pretty much the godfather of one of the biggest real estate strategies out there, which is wholesaling. Mm-hmm. And you've been doing this for over 15 years. I think I want to say over 18 years now.
17, yeah.
17.
17 years.
So,
17 years doing real estate wholesaling and 10 years educating. So.
Mm-hmm. And the whole thing, because of how you approach things, you approach things from a space of contribution, of giving. You never, ever, ever hold back on information and stuff that can help other people. And I think that's been one of the catalysts of what's helped you get to to the space where you're at. But can you tell us a little bit about how the whole journey began? How did you, how you got, you went from the military and you jumped into real estate and then just, blew up over the years.
Yeah, no, it didn't happen like that. That's like, that's the short version. Just like anything, anybody that's had any or tasted any type of success, there's a battlefield that they went through. And there was hell that they lived through in trials and tribulations and battle scars. And eventually they come out on the other side and they're still going through battles just like every entrepreneur does out there. So I think for me, I was working a regular job. I was 33 years old. I had a brand new daughter at the time. And I don't know what it was always in me that I wanted to be successful. I was a Marine stationed in Okinawa, Japan. And I happened to find the book Psycho-Cybernetics that was written by Maxwell Maltz. And he talked about success principles, and he talked about how your subconscious and your conscious mind and how you can impact your conscious mind, your subconscious mind through visualization and success strategies. And you can almost he talked about servo mechanisms where you can pick a specific target and you can you can kind of direct it like a guided missile. And I related to that because I was in the Marine Corps. So that book led me to, and he mentioned Napoleon Hill, which led me to Think and Grow Rich. And Think and Grow Rich, and I come from a small town in Vermont. I never grew up around success. My dad made no more than $45,000 a year as a police officer. And so my whole life it was, you can't afford this, you can't afford that, you can't afford this. And my friends went to the Bahamas and they came back with pink sand, and they went down to Florida and they came back with tans. And I went to my grandmother's house and I slept on the top bunk and my brother slept on the bottom bunk, and I was still, white as a ghost in spring break. So I was searching for, I knew there was a stark difference between success and having wealth and not having it. And I was in a place where I didn't have it and I wanted it, but I didn't know how to achieve it. So I read Maxwell Maltz, then it led me to Think and Grow Rich. And that blew my mind because of that success was essentially, it's a pattern. It's a thing that can be adopted. That means you can find people and you can do what they do and you can get what they got. And it's called behavioral congruency, meaning if you have a congruent behavior of a successful person and you adopt what they do, then you can become successful. And I looked at that, and I was like, wow, it doesn't matter where I come from. It doesn't matter my background. You know, I sucked in school. I did terrible. I was a CD student. I was great at sports, but I just really was not the book. I'm not as smart as you. I mean, I go to Rafael. We worked together for a while, and he get his master's degree and his this and that and all the books. I'm like, I was thoroughly impressed on how smart he was and how well he worked with time management. And then he goes, okay, well, I want to do a bodybuilding competition, and he gets down to like 4% body fat, and now he's on stage, you know, doing this stuff. I'm like, this guy's insane, you know? So I wasn't like that. I was just an average Joe. I was just the average Joe, CD student. I wasn't great in basketball. I wasn't great in football. I wasn't really great at anything. So it was just like this average guy, really not accomplished everything. And I saw this book, and I was like, wow, maybe I could be successful. And I started applying, you know, some of the things in a very haphazard manner, you know, and I was in Okinawa, Japan. I was like 21 years old, or 18, 19 years old at the time. And by the time, you know, nothing happened for years, right? I went from job, and I did bartending jobs, and I worked at a pool company, and I did an MLM deal where you recruit your friends. Next thing I know, I find myself at 33. I'm living month to month. I'm essentially broke, and now I have this brand new daughter, and I'm frustrated because I read the book, and what happens is once you expand your mind of what the possibilities are, and you want it, but then I feel like I was chasing all the time, trying to get to the place where I could say, I made it. And I was just scraping and crawling, trying different things. I even tried chain letters, where you write a letter and you send it to 5 people and they send money back to you and stuff like that. So I tried everything, right? So finally I got to the point at 33, I was, you know, working a job. I was living, you know, month to month, barely living month to month. And I was going to an appointment on a Saturday afternoon. And at the time I was selling pools and landscaping. So I went to an appointment Saturday afternoon, and I was driving down the freeway, and I was flipping through the radio stations, and I heard this guy on the radio talk about how you could flip houses using no cash or credit. And he had people on there saying that they made $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in a matter of less than 30 days. And amazingly enough, this is how stupid I was, right? Amazingly enough, I'm driving down the freeway, and I'm laughing at this guy going, what a scam. I'm saying to myself, what a scam. This is such a scam. You can't make 30 grand or 20 grand in less than 30 days in real estate. What idiot would believe this? Now, I'm originally from New England. I grew up with a father that was the devil's advocate, and he was great for making, you know, for trying to find fault in everything and kind of fix it and stuff. So I adopted that. So I was the devil's advocate. I'm driving down the freeway, and I'm sitting there internally driving, laughing, bashing this guy on the radio as I'm living month to month, and I'm broke on a Saturday trying to go hustle to sell a pool. How stupid was I, right? You know, and I'm sitting there, that can't be done. See, I had a preconceived notion. I had this idea in my head that I thought you had to have cash and credit to buy a house and fix it and sell it or rent it and wait for rentals and appreciation. That's what I thought I knew. And the problem is, you know, when you give someone a little bit of information, they think they know, and then they come up with this idea like, I know that, you can't do that. So that's what I was. And I actually turned the channel, and I go, what a joke, what a scam, who's going to listen to this? So I was driving down the freeway, and you know, have you ever had that gut feeling, Rafael, in your gut, and you know something's turning, and it was like a screaming, and I think it was God now bashing me across the head going, dude, turn the channel back, you moron. You know, you got to listen. So what happened is I had a feeling. I turned back and I listened to what he had to say, and he explained this concept of wholesaling, how you can basically, you know, you can get a contract with a seller for whatever, get a contract with a buyer, and for hire, get 50,000, you know, 60,000. You put them both together, bring them to a title company, and you can essentially sell your paper for a profit. And I was like, wow, I never knew you could do that. So that concept, that new idea essentially changed everything, because I was like, wow, I had no idea you could do that. And now I wanted to learn more. So I bought this guy's course that he was selling. It was, I took my wife's Capital One credit card for $250. It's one of those starter cards. I had a Capital One credit card, a starter card for $250. And I gave it to the guy. And I got this course for $500. It was 2003 at the time that the recordings were recorded in 1992. It was black and white. He was wearing bell bottoms. He had a cowboy hat, and he goes, all you got to do is go knock on doors, knock on pre-foreclosure doors, and ask if they want to sell. So I'm like, okay, so I go get a list of pre-foreclosures, and I start driving around, start knocking on pre-foreclosure doors. I got my first deal in 3 weeks. It wasn't easy. It was difficult. I wanted to quit probably 1,000 times. Knocking on doors in Arizona is a scary thing. I never done it before. I never came from a sales background or sales other than going and sharing pool information. So I didn't have all the techniques. So I went and knocked. I found a guy who wanted to sell, and he agreed to do it. He stood me up 3 or 4 times. I kept coming back, and I made $11,008 on my first deal within the first 3 weeks of getting this $500 course of knocking on doors. And yes, I worked hard. Yes, I doubted myself. Yes, I didn't think I could do it. Yes, everybody told me I was crazy, including my father-in-law, including the realtor that I said that was helping me have comps. We didn't have tools like Zillow and Redfin and PropStream or REI Automate. All these, we didn't have all these tools. So I basically tripped my way through it, happened to find a buyer, and made $11,008. And I can tell you that was a game-changing moment for me, because it took a concept and turned it into proof, right? That actually it can be done. And I was like, and that changed everything for me. And from that journey, I went out as soon as I got that check. I quit my job, which I don't suggest you do. But I went nuts at this thing, knocking on, and I didn't know anything about marketing. I just went nuts knocking on doors because that's all I knew. Knocked on doors. I got my second deal that was $2,000, barely by the skin of my teeth, and I did everything wrong. I didn't get my third deal for like 4 months later, and I thought I was never going to get a deal again. I thought, wow, were these just a fluke? And then I'm never going to get a deal again. So what happens, I eventually got that third deal. And then fast forward, that was 2003. In 2000, and I'll wrap it up, I'll kind of bring it through. But the 2003, 2004, I built a portfolio of about between 2004, all the way 2004, early 2005, of about 120 rental properties using a structure that we call down payment arbitrage, where we use seller financing to keep existing loans in place. But instead of flipping the properties, we actually held the property. So I basically structured seller financing, gave the seller a little bit of money. They moved out. We went and fixed up the property, put a tenant in, and held on to it. So I had about 120 properties, $36 million worth. Then a group out of California, if you remember, in 2005, the market was insane. Stock market was going crazy. It was, real estate was insane here, especially in Phoenix. So we had a group out of California came and wanted to buy all of our properties in blocks. So they bought all of our properties in 2005 at 110% of value of the properties in blocks. And literally, I made millions of dollars in such a short period of time. That was my super smart move. That was my smart move. My stupid move is I didn't understand about real estate market cycles, right? So we're in this whole COVID-19 right now. People are getting laid off like crazy, right? And we're going to be shifting in this real estate market's going to be shifting.
Everything's moving like crazy right now, yeah.
Moving like crazy. So, but I was the same thing, but the market went up and then it crashed dramatically. Instead of looking what asset class thrives during a recessionary period, what did I do? I bought the worst thing you could buy during entering in a recession. I bought land. I bought lots of land. I bought $30 million worth of land that we brought through entitlements and through the city and through, I had civil engineers, I had attorneys on staff. And what happened is I got too big for my britches. I thought it was all that. I thought, hey, everything I touched turned to gold. And that wasn't really the case. It was the market, the super hot market made me successful. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. But then my stupid move is I got myself into a tough situation. Very tough, where I literally became illiquid in Labor Day of 2008. It's when Washington Mutual crashed, Century 21 went out of business, or no, Century, Mortgage went out of business, Washington Mutual went out. They had, JP, was it not JP Morgan, but Bear Stearns went out of business. I mean, it was a bloodbath. I mean, the largest hard money lender in Phoenix, Arizona, at the time, did billions and billions and billions of dollars alone. He dressed up in a tuxedo and he took his life. Home builders, you walked across, Arizona, and there was just vacant houses. It was insane. It was like the most incredible thing you've ever seen in your life. It was like walking into a third world country. So I found myself illiquid in 2008, where I didn't have anything, to the point where I had a guy come to my door, knocked on my door to repossess my car. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation before.
Yep.
That's
2007.
Yeah.
that hit 2007 for me.
More cash that I ran out. Yeah. So 2008, guy Kim's knocking on my door, and that freaked me out. That scared the living crap. I had adrenaline shaking, trying to get my keys. Luckily, I talked my way out of it. I was able to save the stupid car. And from that point on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get serious here. Instead of looking at the newspaper every day, waiting for the market to come back, I commend my wife for this. She goes, stop sitting there waiting, stop sitting on your hands, go out and go to work. Do what you know how to do. I always have a good woman, bam, you moron, get up there, let's go to work. Crush it. So what I do, I went back to my pre-foreclosure list, back to the basics that got me to where I was successful to a certain point. And I hand wrote. I had a yellow pad of paper just like this. And I'd sit there, and I didn't have a printer at the time, so I could print it. So I had my little notepad. I had my pen here, and I literally hand wrote at the kitchen table letters to basically pre-foreclosures. And I did 25 a day, and I did it literally 6 days a week. And I just send out letters every single day, and I got calls from sellers, and I went to their house, and I got properties under contract, and I wholesaled them. And that was in latter, 2008, early 2009. And then I launched a podcast in 2010, kind of documenting what I was doing. For the purpose of really, kind of giving back and just kind of talking about what I'm doing, and actually I did it primarily for a group of people in Phoenix that I was kind of working with, and we're doing deals together, and they wanted to learn how to do it because I kind of explained how to do it. So essentially I went from there. And then it's progressively every year has got better. And then I hired you, which was a absolute blessing. And you were better converter in the house than I was, way better. You would go into a house, meet a seller, and the way your mind trick was on tricking yourself that the value wasn't the value, right? This thing isn't worth $300, it's worth $200, so I must offer $50,000, and you walk away with contracts, and you get these ridiculously smoking deals, great deals. And what happened was, and you were there during this process, Rafael, but what happened was during that time, Phoenix started to heat up, right? It started to heat up. In our primary marketing mechanisms, we did direct mail, we did ringless voicemail, we did Google AdWords, we did Bing, and our cost per lead slowly ticked up, where my cost per lead in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, 12, where was probably around $35 to $40 cost per lead, right? It's a KPI we track. in our business. And the cost per lead ticked up to about $482, right? And
Oh,
you were
yeah.
here, you know.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, your situation, and it was tough. I mean, we were literally squeezing every single lead, the dollar, and we went in and we had to modify compensation plans to change things to try to make the company profitable so we could still market and still do it, which I would now knowing and going through the situation with you, I would never change a compensation plan on existing team members. I'd only change a compensation plan for new people coming in as they come into the business, but you can't change compensation plans on people. It destroys morale. I made that mistake. And it gave you an opportunity to move on. And now you're doing what you're doing now and you're killing it. But I think a primary reason was because we had to change the compensation plan because marketing costs were so high. So that being said, you know, and this happened. So I've been doing the business, and I was stuck. And Brandon, you know, I'm sure you might have had him on here, and Brandon Simmons.
Yeah, a few episodes back, we had Brandon Simmons on here as well.
Yeah, so Brandon, great guy. He worked. He basically ran the dispositions. You know, you guys ran the acquisitions and crushed it. So Brandon, awesome guy. So Brandon has been in my ear going, dude, you got to do virtual. You got to think about going on the phone. You got to do virtual, and kind of just putting this plant in my ear. And I'm like, no, I'm in Phoenix. I don't want to do that. Right. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do it. So it came to about, in August, I launched a course in Nick Perry and Josh and Steve out of Canada from Tallbridge Financing, or Tallbridge Homes. Essentially, I collaborated with them and taught a course on wholesaling virtually with those two. And they did a phenomenal job. And I'm like, you know what? That's pretty cool. You know, I did virtual deals, but it was through students. So it wasn't actually as my main business model. So November came and I started looking at my P&Ls and I'm going, okay, this sucks. You know, I mean, cost per lead still getting high. This is crazy. You know, and we're just getting squeezed on profitability. So I made the decision in November to flip literally the entire switch of the whole company to go from local, right, to continue doing local deals. We do deals today in Phoenix, but then go national all across the country. We changed all our marketing channels. We looked at different things, and it was hell, literally hell for, latter part of November. December sucked. You know what I mean? We did contracts, but it was a nightmare. January was good. February crushed. March, literally we're on, that was the best month. It's been in probably in my career for wholesaling. It was insane. Even while we're going into this COVID mess, and we're still operating and doing deals and getting contracts, but my whole team's working remote. So we pivoted, changed our whole model. Everyone fought it. We had to re-systemize everything, re-engineer everything, and kind of keep everyone together and keep them focused on the path that we're going. And it's the cool thing about being in a small business, you can pivot really quickly. So I just made the decision, guys, you know what? No more. I'm not marketing local, we're marketing national. And this is how it's going to work. And then the next thing you know, we got leads coming in all across the country and we don't know how to comp them. I mean, we're getting deals for $500 in Flint, Michigan, right? Yeah. Well, guess what? You can't sell a house for $500 in Flint, Michigan. You can't even sell it for $1,000 in Flint, Michigan, right? So we learned that, some areas of the country you don't want to do businesses in. Some areas are phenomenal. And there's these little markets where there's activity going on that nobody knows about. There's no iBuyers in the market. Now they're gone. But there's no, there's no big wholesalers in the market. And these sellers are just highly motivated, and there's a ridiculous amount of activity on the cash buyer side. And we're finding these small little markets, and we're pulling, $50, $60, $100,000 out of these small little markets, and it's insane. So that's where that business model is now. I got a team of people. We do everything virtually. We do locally as well. March, I think we closed I think it was 25 deals. right now, April, we're crushing. We're signing like even remotely, even just doing everything like this, 5 to 6 deals a week right now. I think we've got like close to 350 to 400,000 on the board right now that we're set to close here in the next couple of weeks.
Pipeline.
You know what I mean? So it's crazy. It's crazy how, and now we go into the COVID-19, and I look back, that was the best business decision I ever made. Going back, yeah.
So I'm going to throw something out there because I had the opportunity to work for you and be part of your team for close to 3 years. So if I've ever seen anybody walk into a room and then just do a 180 on a carrier boat like that, it's you. I think one of the things that I always looked up, or admired about you was that you get out of friction real quick. And what I mean by that is I know we got hit when I was there, we were sitting at the Monday, meetings and sitting at the table. Sometimes we got hit with real big decisions. And I guess the stigma is that somebody who's at the, is at the top of the food chain is going to have a hard time acknowledging or considering outside opinions or tapping into additional resources that do not come from that person. And I've seen that across different industries. It was not the case with you. I mean, we would sit down and then just you would you built that culture into the team that everybody could collaborate. Everybody could pitch in and then drop a golden nugget, and if it made sense, you'd move forward with it. And you had the ability to get out of friction real quick. If you didn't like something, it got fixed, like boom, it was gone. There was nothing, like it wouldn't come up in conversation again or anything like that. You know what I mean? And yeah. I think that does, that's one of the elements for great culture and actually empowering the team.
Yeah, I think first off and foremost, the premise you have to start with is that you will do the right thing no matter what the consequence, right? As long as you do the right thing, no matter what the consequence is, then, and if that's your underlying core value of how you operate, that no matter what it is, then you do the right thing the best you possibly can by everybody, even if it hurts, And I know Brandon told a story one time where we got this deal under contract. It was like a $20,000, $18,000 deal. I don't know the exact numbers, but we were set to close it the next day. And we got a call from another wholesaler saying, wait a minute, I got a contract on it before you did. And I said, okay, if that's the case, well, let's figure it out. So I said, I got the seller on the phone. I said, do you happen to know this other wholesaler? And the seller's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. We're set to close. I don't know anybody, whatever you're talking about. So I said, great, let me pull him in. So I pulled him in on the phone. Seller turned a 180 just like that and goes, well, yeah, I guess I did sign a contract, and I didn't know if he was going to close and this, that, and the other. And the guy's like, well, we're ready to close too. We've been working on it. So I'm like, okay, he had the contract. I saw validation of it. It was proof of it. We canceled our contract with our buyer and basically said, hey, bud, I'm sorry that, another wholesaler is under contract, has right to the property. We'll get you another deal down the road, which we did. And then was able to, turn that deal over to the other wholesaler. We had 18,000 coming in the next day. It was a pretty big deal, but it was the right thing to do. So if you always do the right thing, you never really have a problem. If you do the right thing with your people, you do the right thing with your other people out there, you can be in business for 17 years and have great relationships with everybody, and not have to worry about, kind of peeking outside over your shoulder if you screwed somebody over. So. Absolutely.
No, I completely agree. Doing the right thing. And like you said, I know you do it when it hurts, and it doesn't mean being a pushover. It doesn't mean being, overly lenient or anything like that, because I've seen you uphold the if something's written down, something's in the agreement, like that's it. You draw your line and you go after whatever it is, that's stipulated, which is also, basically what I'm trying to make a point of is that, what's fair is fair, and you operate that way with your team, with the people around you. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's very, very commendable.
Yeah. And I've got a ton of stuff to work on when it comes to myself on team building, and I'm always reading management books and learning how to collaborate and build better culture and stuff. And I think every entrepreneur is always looking on a way that they can become better at what they do. That's why we listen to podcasts like yours and try to educate ourselves and do the best we can do. But I think, if you come all the way full circle, can I say that I've made it? I don't think any entrepreneur or any successful person I met can go, I've made it, and they can say I've made it, because the goal gets moved further. It's interesting, a handful of years ago, I said, you know what, I'm building an apartment portfolio of 10,000 units. I didn't own large multifamily properties before. I didn't really know the asset class that well. I had to learn about it. I found out great people that knew about it better. I educated myself. I went to seminars. I joined masterminds about it. I read books about it. Listened to podcasts about it. I inundated myself with learning everything I could, and then I took action on it. And it's amazing how once you move towards something and you have an idea and you want to move toward, you educate yourself about it and you start taking action in faith, meaning you don't really know exactly how it's going to turn out. You just take action in the direction of what you want to accomplish. How people, events, circumstances, deals line up for you in a magical way through that intention. And they talk about it in Think and Grow Rich. They talk about it in the Psycho-Cybernetics. They talk about it in every other success book I've read. But amazingly enough, deals came up, things came up. Now, we own close to 800 units right now, over $30 million worth, that even during the way we structured the deal with the tenants and how we have it set up, they're student housing units strategically located right by campuses. Even though schools are out, kids need a place to stay. A lot of kids are coming home, but we collected close to 89% of all the rents on all of our buildings that we own currently right now during this whole COVID-19 mess, which is pretty amazing. So now it's great to having cash flow coming in, having multi-million dollars of assets coming in. But I look at it and I go, I only have 800. I've got basically 9,200 more units to go. What a loser. Let's go. You know what I mean? It's like, what am I doing? I'm sitting on my hands here, I got to go. Let's go.
What is this, spring break?
Yeah, I know. It's like crazy. It's like, what am I doing? Then I've got my book I'm releasing. I'm finishing up the final thing on that book. That, yeah. And my goal is to make it, number one New York Times bestselling author on that and launch that to the world. And then I'm building my real estate team. We've got 4 sales guys right now. I need 10 more in the next 90 days. I got my educational business we're doing. We're building a whole team there and stuff like that. So there's everything in the work, but you know what? If you enjoy the moment, you enjoy the journey, you love what you do, it's really not the destination. It's really the excitement of business isn't in the growth of the everyday growing. It's not about saying I've made it. It's every day going in there and showing up, giving it everything you got, and living the best day you can, and going out there and building something. It's great. It's like when you were a kid and you built Legos. You built it, and when you were done, the satisfaction of building it, and you moved on, you're like, okay, I'm done with that. Now I'm going to build a bigger thing, right? It's the same thing with business, right? We're always building. And over the 17 years of doing this, I don't think I've ever completed the perfect set yet. It's always been a building process, which makes it so exhilarating. That's why I go to bed at 12, 1 o'clock at night, and I'm constantly doing stuff, and I wake up at between 5:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning. I can operate best on 4.5, 5 hours of sleep. You don't need it. There's no time to mess around. So
I think, and I'm somewhat similar when it comes to that schedule. I'll dive into a project and get lost in it, and it's just the excitement, the fire. I go to bed like double, triple, checking if it's something that I'm doing on the computer. I'll look at my computer like I'm walking away from my sweetheart at the end of and going off to war or something, and I want to get back to it in the morning. That's kind of fire and excitement that I feel about projects that I dive deep into. It's really, really cool to see how you started with just general knowledge out of radio station, and then jumped into took a risk, jumped into something, made something happen, saw the tangibility of it, and saw it was something real, and then stuck with it. Something that's undisputed is going to be, it's the tenacity that you have behind your efforts. And I think, in terms of leadership, it's one of the things that also conveys it. For example, and I'll speak for myself. It's when we were sitting at the table and we're looking at deals, we were doing this, doing that, and I was running acquisitions. I'd be like, no, man, I gotta perform. Like, I'm part of the team. This is a high performing team. There's so much, tenacity. There's so much commitment, and there's so much, good going on at the end of a table. I gotta pick up my weight. So, right. To a point, it became something, that was very inspiring at the moment, but it was also a trial by fire kind of deal. And I think when you basically gave me the opportunity to excel, to, challenge myself and take me and my activity, what I could do, my knowledge and everything to different levels. And I capitalized on that. And I think it's one of the biggest things that you can do in terms of leadership, empower your team, and things like this are going to happen. Why? Because you're building with other people, you're bringing other talent together, and then you can have 1,000 units, and it's not going to be just a faraway dream. It's going to be something that it's tangible, and it's like, fuck yeah, I can do it. It's achievable. It's something that it's there. So
yeah, I think it's and you talk about tenacity, and tenacity is stick-to-itiveness, meaning that you're never going to quit in the mix of it. So, and with a leader, if a leader has a vision and it's crystal clear and they can see it, taste it, feel it, they might not know exactly how it's going to come into fruition. They just know that I'm just going to keep moving forward. They don't really have to have the how down. They just have to execute and keep moving forward. Almost like, I pivoted from, doing deals locally. That means all of our marketing, all of our buyers list, all of our systems and processes and procedures and how we operated. We went from how our office operated. All of our team would come in on Monday, and then they'd literally disperse. Our dispositions would be out. Our acquisitions would be out, all meeting with sellers all week. We had lead managers that took all the inbound calls and booked appointments, and they will go on, acquisitions will go on appointments all week. Then they come back the following Monday and we go through all the deals. So that all had to change, meaning where now dispositions wasn't out anymore. Dispositions had to go, and instead of building relationships with cash buyers, they were literally over the phone working on trying to sell properties nationally and figuring out how that system was going to work. We didn't have a system for it. We kind of heard what other people was doing. We talked to other people. We got some information on how they were doing, but we didn't really have it. They didn't really have it dialed in. We didn't really have it dialed in. So we had to get that dialed in. Then we had to, I built the whole sales floor, and I got cubicles coming in. I got the computers all I had to get. I had to get everybody phone system. The phone system, just trying to find the right phone system was insane. Get the phone systems we could work, but all that stuff while trying to do business and then overcome all the obstacles. And then we pivoted from that whole thing, pivoted how our marketing went, pivoted how we analyze deals, pivoted what states worked good, what's a deal. And we swung one way, and we're like, we contracted everything. We did 40 deals in January and sold half of them because the other half of them sucked. They were terrible. But when we go back to what you're talking about of tenacity and working with a team, if you bring everybody together and say, listen, this is where we're going. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have problems. We're not going to have all the answers right now. We'll figure it out. If we collectively know where we're going, what we're going to accomplish, and how it's going to happen, then listen, all of us can get together and know that we will work through this. We're going to get to the other side of it, and we're going to be operational, and we're going to love it. Now my team looks back, and now, especially during the whole coronavirus thing, is that this is the best business model for this environment, right? Because everyone now works remote. They're closing deals over the phone. We're continuing to get contracts. We're selling properties like crazy. And it's business as usual. The only difference is no one's in my office, right? It's just me, myself, and I in this big, 5,000 square foot office. So, but it's cool to know. And I kind of broke through barriers myself of thinking I need everybody in the office. I have to have a sales team in the office. because of this whole thing, I said, you don't. I think I can have sales teams, great people all across the entire country that are just crushing over the phone, and probably have a dispo team here because dispo, I mean, we're interacting a lot as we're doing deals, but I mean, you don't really need an office to do this, to do this virtual model that we're talking about and build a huge, massive team doing, millions of dollars a month in revenue.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think it comes down to accountability and how if you have a strategy, if you have a process of keeping your team accountable some way, somehow, you're going to be fine. I mean, and you're right. I think you're completely right about this model. It's a model that you can do it virtually. You can actually tailor it and then run pretty lean on it, and I mean, create a really, really good living from just doing this stuff. I mean, look at your example, for example. Look at your company, for example. Right now, through the whole COVID-19 thing, it's unemployment skyrocketed. There's companies just falling down like dead flies everywhere. And on the opposite side, you saw the opportunity to pivot into something else, and right now you're thriving, like not surviving, but thriving. You're expanding the company, you're growing. And I think, a good entrepreneur and a good leader always looks for that opportunity. They look for the opportunity of the stuff that they can, okay, what's something that I can control? What's something that I can, I can do about this world, the world that I'm in, not the governmental world, not the stuff that I can, have an opinion on, but not really do any direct action towards.
Right.
And I think that, finding those gaps as an entrepreneur goes a long way. Let me ask you this. So, I mean, in your opinion, what would you say are the top 3 skills for a good entrepreneur? And
skills?
Yeah, skills or I don't know if I'm using the right word.
Let's say attributes.
Attributes, yeah.
I would say number 1 is you have to have a crystal clear vision, and you have to want it so bad that you're willing to go through whatever hell you have to go through to make it happen. Where you're so absolutely must achieve X, Y, Z at not at all costs. Obviously, you don't want to get divorced and lose your kids and lose your family about it, but you have to be crystal. And I think the difference between a highly successful person, between someone that's moderately successful and someone that has no success, is the highly successful person is crystal clear, and they have it crystal clear. They have it written down. They can see it. They know it exactly where they're going and why they're going there, right? If you know why you're going there and you can see where you're going in all aspects of every business you're operating, then number 1, you can lead people, right? Because now you can share your vision with your team, and this is where we're going, and you're at the ground floor, and we're gonna own this space, and you can do that. That's number 1, is having a crystal clear vision and having a massive amount of desire to accomplish that, with an underlying purpose of what the purpose for being there, not to just generate revenue, but to that you're making an impact in some sort of way, whether it be through the business. And I've always taken my real estate business and wanted to be the best model for my education business. So I never want to be an educator that taught real estate, but did real estate 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or I always wanted to be an educator that was in the middle of it, and it was doing deals every day. It was out there hustling and crushing and doing, you know what I mean? But then not being just, I wanted to be the best of the best out there. And I'm not there yet, and I'm still working on it and stuff. But the amazing thing is in my education company, the best ideas, the best problems, the best solutions we solve all come from me doing the business, in the business, and then overcoming those problems, having amazing success with it, and then I teach it. So it's a great combination. So if you have an underlying reason why you're doing this and a passion for it, and you do that, and then you have the tenacity that you're talking about, the stick-to-itiveness that you're going to get beaten up, you're going to get punched in the face, you're going to get knocked on your knees, you're going to get to a point where you're not going to think you can get up. or you don't have what it takes. You literally might have to fund the thing, go broke and fund it, and go broke again and fund it. It's the way, it's the way business is. And there's many times you've got to go all in, and you have to have an element of faith. And it's scary, and you doubt yourself, but you stick to the vision, and you're going to come out on that other side going, wow, this is miraculous. This is, now you understand all these heartaches and things that you went through, and the trials and tribulations and all the stuff led you to where you are. And you probably, if you had to design it, it would be designed exactly like that, but you're going, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, I guess it'd be clarity, tenacity, and faith. I think those are the three. I usually get pretty, because I've asked that question before, and I usually get pretty technical answers. But I think at the essence of the entrepreneur spirit, I think that's what it is. Because we tend to walk into something and not have an idea how the hell do you do it. How it's done, and it's throwing spaghetti on the wall, and it's all right. I'm gonna try that out. That's how I, jumped into the transportation business, and that led me to real estate one way or another. One thing that I want to throw out there about you learning through your company and then using that in your education space. One thing that I always remember is sometimes we would have a Monday meeting and talk about a new strategy. We found this really, really killer way to set up deals. We found this really, really killer way to, close and wrap, and this is part of the script now, and be super excited about something on Monday, and you wouldn't even let me enjoy it for a week. You'd be teaching it on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like,
come on, bro, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful times.
I'm telling you, if I find something that works, it's hard for me to not talk about it, because I genuinely want people to succeed so bad. That I want to give them the best of the best, most cutting edge information to help them succeed so bad, that it makes an impact in their lives, and I think that's why we're here, right? On this, is to make an impact, right? So
it conveys too. People see it, people feel it. And from the seminars, every time you have a Flip to Freedom seminar, people walk away with their lives changed, and you've done that for thousands and thousands of people. So it's super amazing. I know you're inspiration for a lot of people out there. Whether it be in real estate or starting entrepreneurs, and you started from this space, and now you're doing this and creating all that change, and that creates inspiration for other people. But who or what has been some of your biggest sources of inspiration?
Well,
Loaded question.
My biggest source of inspiration is the Bible. I read the Bible every single morning. That's my core. I believe in God, and if I wouldn't have anything I would have if it wasn't for the grace of God. So that's number one. So number two, I think number two, when it comes to inspiration, there's a whole group of books and people and compilation of all different things that they were just a little bit like the book Traction from Gino Winkman. I learned how to operate a business, right? Think and Grow Rich. I learned how to think and how your mind works, and understanding that. A book called Organize Tomorrow Today. That's a great book on really how to be highly proficient. Jason Medley was the first person that gave me permission to hire, someone at that time. Nick Perry, kind of really gave me the idea about really virtual wholesaling in a model that kind of gave me a lot of direction on making this pivot, but doing it in a way faster than trying to figure out a lot of stuff myself. So, when it came to closing, right? Closing, the way that you were able to close people and showing them the alternate and difference with your spreadsheet and stuff like that, that's cool stuff, right? Then that works. And that was able you to get some great things. So I think it's a lot of people, and I think being open to and being humble enough to know that you don't know everything. I don't know everything, and you can learn from everybody, and it doesn't have to be an incredible Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett type of person. It can be anybody. I mean, it could be, I have someone that takes care of our house that, not really a maid, but she's a house cleaner, man. Talk about that girl, talk about inspiration. That girl's an inspiration, So you can learn from pretty much anybody if you don't put yourself above anybody or below anybody. I think it's just if you operate in a way where you can look for learning opportunities where you can learn and you can say, hey, how can I apply that to my life? It'll make little impacts and shifts. And we all go through learning cycles, right? Where now we want to learn about this specific thing. So it's like, I first off, I had to work with my acquisition department. How do you close over the phone, right? So I really honed in on the best methodology to close over the phone and looked with multiple different scripts in ways to close over the phone and with tonality. And I looked at Wolf of Wall Street and how he closed over the phone. I looked at, Brett Daniels, obviously, TTP closing over the phone, and I looked at Rafael Vargas of closing over the phone. I kind of looked at everybody. And I didn't copy each one, but I took bits and pieces of each one with my own personal knowledge of what I do, and then put it into my own, here's how we operate, right? And here's how we do deals over the phone. And it's been immensely successful. So now I could start hiring people on. They could use our scripts and our methodology, and they crushed. Then I was like, okay, well, now let's now I got to get my disposition department. Well, my dispo guy I completely overwhelmed him with like 40, 50 deals, and he quit, right? Couldn't handle it. So I was like, nothing against him. It's not an easy position when you have 40, 50 deals and you don't have a business model and you have no systems to do it. And I kind of threw it on him and said, make it work. So it was hard. So I don't, nothing against him. Anyways, the bottom line is I had to take over dispositions, and literally I just hired a guy that started 2 weeks ago. So I've been operating in dispositions. I created an entire systemized process for it. We made folders, and we had our knew the way we have input all of our data in our system. We created new marketing channels that we worked with. And now it's operating like a machine, and we're selling properties left and right. Now I can bring on a person that's now walking into a system, and he can just follow the process and crush it. So yeah. So I mean, I think it's learning from all different people, and then instead of copying people, but learning from information, putting your own twist on it, and then being able to make it happen.
Well, when you do it from that space too, I mean, you also get a lot of reciprocity back. For example, if I recall right, Nick was I met Nick a few years back at one of the conferences, and so he was there learning from your content, and now he was able to take that, wrap it, and then roll with it, and then do something else that kind of pivoted outside, and then it came back full circle to you now. So I think when you operate from that space, I mean, beautiful things happen. How? I have no idea. But
yeah. How and that's where the element of faith comes in. That's where the vision comes in. And then intuition comes into a huge. I wouldn't call myself highly intuitive. I would call myself. I have to be aware. It's almost like my daughter. We were in my daughter's a huge singer. She loves to sing, and her ears are amazing. Beautiful, yeah. So we were like, anytime we go to a restaurant and they have music in the background, I can't hear it because I'm hearing everything else. I can't even hear the music. And she's humming to a song, and she goes, "Oh my God, that's my favorite song. I love that song." I said, "What are you talking about?" So, and I'd have to listen for it. I'd have to tune in my hearing and I'm sitting there, oh yeah, I hear it. So I had to tune into it. That's intuition. Intuition, you have to tune into your intuition, kind of close out the noise, and be able to really hone in, and you'll get gut feelings. You'll get little flashes of inspiration, and I'll get these flashes of visions, like not visions, but flashes of inspiration or things that I'll see or whatever, or these gut feelings to move in certain directions. And I think, if we operate life where we're in the restaurant and we never get to hear the music, or we can actually operate life and you can actually hear the intuitive, leading. Your intuition's amazing, and it will lead you in the right directions if you can hone in and listen to that voice and recognize that voice. So the way to do that is by meditation. I meditate every morning. Through a meditation, you can quiet your mind, and in that space where there's no chatter and there's no dialogue, that's where a lot of cool stuff happens, in that space of just complete, absolute quietness. And you get to that point, it literally takes your day of chaos and brings it down to placid, and gives you essentially a busy going through life with direction and clarity, but do it with a relaxed intensity. You know what I mean?
So. It's one of the hardest things for me to do, slow down my train of thought and all that noise in my head. And I do meditate. I try to do it every single morning. Sometimes I'll skip a day or whatever, but for the most part, it's my between 5 and 6 routine, right? And yeah, it does take a while for me to kind of, I sit down, I'll be thinking about 1,000 things for 5-10 minutes, and then slowly I'll get to that space where, okay, cool, I'm just breathing, and then it'll clear it out. Even if I spend, 5 minutes in real meditation, I come out on the other side and it's so refreshed. It's just like a little break from all the noise that keeps happening in our heads. And I think it's super important.
Well, it is super important because it's how we operate, right? Because it's like when you have all this chatter and you calm your mind to a place of no dialogue, no chatter, and it's just complete, absolute silence. And then you introduce your vision of what you want to accomplish. That's how you impress your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is essentially connected to the universe. And it literally will attract circumstances, events, people in your life that will put you in the path through your intuition, through the connection with the circumstances, events that will put you in the pathway that vision can get accomplished. So, it's like people go, can I be successful without, essentially, manifestation, like a vision, having a clear-cut vision and impressing your mind of seeing yourself the way you want to be, right? So is it just action alone, or is the action with manifestation, meaning you're going to impress your subconscious mind? So it's both, right? Because otherwise, you can take a round peg and you can physically shove it into a square hole, right? The harder you can, you'll eventually get it in there, but it's harder, it's more difficult, there's sweating involved, there's frustration involved, there's agitation, you're gonna wanna quit, it's hard, right? And you're shoving that round peg into a square hole. But then you realize you're going, holy cow, well, if I apply both inspired action, right, and you do what we're talking about, and you quiet your mind, and in that gap, you introduce what you want, that vision, and it pulls stuff toward you, then what happens is now you're going, holy cow, that round peg, right, next thing you know, sitting right by that square hole is a round hole. And you go, there's an easier, better, faster way, and all of a sudden, bam, things get done. People, events, like, for an example, apartment complexes. Next thing you know, I get a call from a friend that says, hey, I got a 120 unit apartment complex in Columbus, Georgia, right by Columbus State University. You know what? Let's partner on it. I'm like, where'd that come from? Oh, yeah. I've been introducing it in my mind, 10,000 units for the past, past 60 days now. And all of a sudden, an opportunity comes out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. It's unexplainable. You can't explain it, right? So It's amazing how life works, actually.
You told me about a book a long time ago, and it's actually one of the best books I've read, and it's one of the books that has changed my perspective on the difference between the human self and the taskiness, right? It's the game of life and how to play it. I mean, I went through that, and it was a completely, it revealed a whole other world that I was not aware of. I've from then to this point, I've worked with a mindset coach, and we focus on meditation, we focus on the self, and we'll creating from a space of being as opposed to from a space of doing. And I'm known for having the tendency to get super tasky and want to break through walls with my forehead, and it's a completely different shift in both results and effort when you like you said, when you start operating from both. So when you do it from the action standpoint, and also from the manifestation, spiritual and energy side, when you combine those two together, what happens? It's magic. I mean, look at your example, and I don't think we've ever gotten into a conversation, that's deep about this, you and I, before, but I mean, we're completely on the same page. Completely on the same page.
Funny. If you're at point A, you want to go to point B, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going, I want to get there as fast as humanly possible. And we tend to go, okay, I've got to it's just effort, right? Just 100% effort. Now, I don't want to take away from busting your butt, working hard, and intensity.
You still got to do all that stuff. Yeah.
Still do it, but it's amazing how you'll get there in a way, because it's never a straight line. It's always like this, but it'll be a lot different path and progress when you combined inspired action and combine what we're talking about, and then actually apply the action with it. You'll get there a lot quicker, and it'll be a lot more enjoyable and a lot less stressful. So you're not getting there and you're overweight, you're out of shape, and you have cardiac arrest, and you're divorced and have no kids because your kid's taken off and your wife hates you, and you're, yeah, you're rich and you got successful and you got the nice car and you got the cool suits and stuff like that, but you're in a big old house, you're overlooking the ocean, whatever, and you're alone.
Yeah. Priorities. No, I mean, you're hitting it right on the head, and I think it's one of the smoking or how do you say it, smoke and mirrors effects that people who jump into entrepreneurship often have. It's they have the vision of reaching for that monetary value in things, and I want to reach this amount, I want to have this, I want to have that, I want to have that, and I think it's we tend to have it backwards. So meaning I want to have that so I can be this.
Right.
And in reality,
they want to feel important, or they want to have power. They want to have, they want to impress.
Right.
And we all have that. And I've got it too. It's like, I want to drive a nice car, and then drive a beat up car. Just like, we want to do that. But go ahead with your point.
I need to have that, this in order to be this person, and people see me this way. But I think it's the other way. You have to be that person first, intrinsically. Believe that you are, know your worth, and then operate from that space from within. And then you're going to have that, but you have to be it first.
So you're basically talking about your identity, right? So if your identity, here's the thing, if your identity comes from stuff, job status, success, influence, and all that. If your identity comes from that point, then it's built on essentially it's built on stone. Do you know what I mean? Just like in the Bible, they talk about your foundation. So what happens is, if the wind blows or a coronavirus happens, right, and that is all gone, the influence goes away, the money goes away, the status goes away, everything goes away. That's where a person now, they're going, holy cow, I've lost everything. And then they contemplate suicide, you know what I mean? Because they're like, holy cow, their identity is in all this stuff, but you take all that away, they're just ripped to apart. But if you're just like you said, so if your identity comes from, you know, who you are as a person and what you contribute to the world, and, you know, if you are a believer in God, your identity comes in God, then you can have all that stuff, and that just makes life more interesting, you know. But if you don't have all that stuff, it's, you know, it's a part of life, you know what I mean? It's just
you still have you.
You're not going to take it with you. You know what I mean? It's not like you're going to be able to, you know, bring it with you. So it's here to enjoy and have amazing things on this planet and life, and do amazing things. But guess what? The knowledge is probably the best commodity that you could own and have, because even if it all goes away and you have the knowledge that you've done it once, and you can rinse and repeat, you can do it all over again.
Yeah.
So, and do it even bigger.
Yeah, I mean, that's where personal growth and really, you know, developing as a person entirely, both from the spiritual standpoint, the professional standpoint, relationships. I mean, that's where it all comes together. And I think treating it as what it is, which is gift. I mean, we have the gift of life, and like entrepreneurs especially, we have that tendency to get, you know, lost in a project, lost in a result, and you know, we're results oriented, you know, type of people for the most part, but at the end of the day, it's just having the awareness to come back. Like, I know it's something that it's not natural for me to do, to have that reset button. It's something that I have to consciously work on every single day. Like, all right, cool. I have to reset. I have to disconnect from this project, because it's still going to be there tomorrow. I'm still going to be able to make stuff happen tomorrow. I'm still going to be able to, you know, put another project together, or get, you know, sidetracked with something else tomorrow. And today it's about, you know, or right now, this space is about connecting. It's about me. It's about family. It's about, you know, the bigger picture of things, and not always, you know, driving, you know, your head through the wall to accomplish something.
Yeah, and it's hard, you know, especially now during this whole coronavirus right now, because now we're like, okay, business essentially has operated. Millions of people are becoming unemployed. Businesses are going nowhere, you know, or shutting down, and they can't operate, can't even go get a pizza, you know. So it's like we're more apt to literally get, you know, just dive in and work harder. And I believe me, I pressed the pedal to the metal even harder than ever. Just because, you know, of, you know, it's like, wow, your world can change just like that overnight. You know what I mean? Where I was talking to a friend, and, you know, I mean, they lost basically a $500 million. A friend of a friend lost $500 million just from this whole stock market crash. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I don't feel so bad. You know, it's like, you lost $500 million.
I couldn't find toilet paper.
Yeah, I know. $500 million. You know, it's like, wow. You know what I mean? But
yeah. No, man. It's resiliency. It's not, you know, an attribute that everybody has, and I think it's one of the biggest things, especially in situations like that. You know, getting hit with something that nobody was expecting. I completely empathize with you, and in the sense of, you know, diving stuff into, or deep into stuff, because like right now, for example, this conversation couldn't come at a better time. I've been buried in my home office and working on a couple of different projects, building the operating system, and then doing a couple of things with the investment company and the brokerage, and really like getting on work mode from, you know, 6 a.m. to like 8 p.m. at night. And I've been just kind of locked behind doors. My whole rationale behind it is, all right, cool. Times are changing. I need to figure this shit out and see what's going on. And but I mean, at the end I enjoy what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, like, I still have to look at the big picture, and I can't omit, you know, the fundamental elements of my life, which is family, faith, and relationships, and just everything that encompasses the results.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, I think it goes back to priorities, and priorities don't change when the circumstances change, right? Mm-hmm. Either priorities are priorities, or they're not priorities, right? So the problem is, you know, I tend to lose sight of the priorities, and I shift priorities around, where I go, okay, it's God, family, health, business. And now I have shifted because I can't go to the gym anymore. I can't go to Orange Theory. Can't go to the gym. So it has shifted where I'm like, okay, God, you know, and then I'll put, well, let's put business and then family and then workout, you know, and you know, and I go, okay. I got to shift it around and catch myself. I mean, literally, I mean, it's almost like a daily thing where I'm like, okay, I've got to make time to shut it down. I got to make time like to work out. I went and worked out this morning, but I literally had to force myself because I got so much other stuff I've got to do on everything that's going on. But I go, listen, this is my priority. This is where it's on my thing. I'm going to work out. Everything else will be there when I get back, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I went out and I felt great. I went for a run and did a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups and stuff, and it felt great. Outside.
I have, there's a reminder on my to-do list because I still use to-do list. Since I started using it when I was working for you, and at 6 p.m. there's a reminder, like it actually pops up on my phone, on my laptop, my iPad, on my desktop, everywhere, and it says disconnect and reset.
Yeah.
So you have a reminder. Yeah, calm the hell down.
I have one too that says, it says, okay, you're done, and the other one says, go to sleep. You know, it's like I love mornings, and I'm also a night owl that sucks. You know what I mean? Because I get energy at about 9.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah, I know. And then I love getting up early, and I love doing that. So essentially, if you're a night owl and an early morning person, you know, you're sacrificing sleep. But
right, one way or another. So, no, man, one of the best conversations I've had in a long time. What's your best advice for starting entrepreneurs?
Starting entrepreneurs. I think I would make sure you have an expectation correctly. So when we're teaching new people about real estate, they're getting involved in real estate and they want to get started and stuff like that. If their expectations aren't set correctly, then if they're not going to get what they expect in a certain time frame that they expect, they get disappointed, they feel like a failure, and then they quit. Right? So if you go into entrepreneurship and you're starting whatever company it might be, and you say, hey, listen, this is a 5-year plan. I'm going to bust it for 5 years. I'm going to see where I am. I'm not going to quit after 5. I'm in 17 years now. So I'm not going to quit after 5 years. I just want to see where I am. I'm going to do the most I can do in 5 years. I want to see where I end up in 5 years. So if you go, it's a 5-year game plan, and you attack every single day as a 5-year game plan, and you're not gonna judge your success on what happens in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 100 days, whatever. But you're gonna look at it for 5 years from now. Then what happens is you won't have a messed up expectation. Anytime I see people get in and they go, oh, I'm going to make a $50,000 check in 3 weeks, what happens? And all of a sudden, boom, it doesn't happen. Their expectations are shattered. They feel like a failure and they quit. So first off, have correct expectations. We tend to think we can accomplish more in a year and less in 10 years. I think I've heard that say before. But just pick 5 years and say, I'm going to do as much as I can and see what happens, see if it happens 5 years from now, and then go out and crush it. So I think that number one, and number two is realize that action is the only thing that creates a result, right? It's not, you can organize and have the letterhead and have all that type of stuff, but it's actually doing the work, and that is the most important thing. Do whatever your work is as an entrepreneur. At real estate, it's marketing and talking to sellers and making offers. And you're making offers and getting contracts, you're selling to buyers, you're talking to buyers, and you're getting contracts from buyers, and you're getting them closed. So if you're not doing those high productive activities that drive business all day, every day, then and those are those high productive elements. So identifying in your business what are the most productive tasks you can do to move the needle the furthest, and you focus on those, then you'll get a lot accomplished in a short period of time, revenue-wise.
So setting down the expectations and then actually doing the work. I think a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Pesa Morby, calls it getting married to your idea for a set amount of time, which makes, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense.
And here's the problem: is people do the right thing, and I'm guilty for this too. I'm not saying people are, but people do the right thing, 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 and they don't get a result right away, and they pivot and they do the wrong thing, the wrong thing, the wrong thing, the wrong thing, the wrong thing. You do the right thing, 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 and you do that for an extended period of time.
Let it work.
Then you let it work. Let it's almost like you're putting together and you're making bread, right? And you put all the ingredients together to make the bread, but you don't let it rise and you don't let it cook, right? It's almost like you're a farmer and you're planting crops in the field, right? You do everything that you can with the earth. You fertilize it, you water it, you get the earth perfect, right? Ready to take seed, and you plant all the seeds in there. And then because you don't have whatever produce corn or whatever you're growing, if it's not done in 60 days or 90 days, then you rip everything up and you replant something else because it hasn't grown. You rip everything up again and you replant something else. The secret to this, any type of success or business is follow the plan and consistently do the work every single day. And next thing you know, everything's gonna germinate and it's gonna grow, and then eventually it's gonna grow through. It's gonna grow roots first, and then it's gonna pierce through, and then you're gonna start seeing the result of all your hard work. But it might take some time. It might take 60 days, 90 days, may take a year before you even see a glimmer of hope. But that's the hardest thing with an entrepreneur. In a job mentality, I go to work, I do effort, I get paid. An entrepreneur,
hour in, hour out.
Yeah, dollar a dollar. And an entrepreneur, you do work, you do effort, you might not get any pay. You go work, you do effort, you might not get any pay. You do work, you do effort, you might not get any pay for an extended period of time, right? And then all of a sudden, bam, you get it all. Everything starts to come together.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, everything starts to sprout. Now you have crops, and they produce revenue over and over and over and over again, and that's called a business.
I've learned to look at that's amazing. I've learned to look at the entrepreneur career as clicks. I think we all get to different stages, and you're going through a process, and then boom, something clicks. When it clicks, it makes sense. You start getting results, and you start seeing the fruits of your labor come in. You build at that stage, build out, and then boom, something else clicks. Either through relationships, through growth, through something that came at you, but something's gonna click. And I think that many times it's working through some part of hell and feeling really, really bad about the results that you're getting, that you don't let it click, get to that point. But inevitably, if you're walking in that direction, something's gonna give, I think.
Well, yeah, and you got the tenacity to do it. And what happens is you're figuring out stuff, and you're getting feedback. You're figuring, and what happens is next thing you know, you find the right formula or the right ingredients, and that's why listening to the podcast, and that's why paying for speed is probably the biggest thing you can do. Education, especially during this whole COVID-19.
Totally agree.
Time to educate yourself and pay for speed, pay for education, pay for masterminds, pay for coaching, pay for whatever you can pay for to learn it as fast as possible. Like for me, if I wanted to learn a new skill and I was going to start a new business, I would try to find the best person in the industry. I would hunt them down. I would interview them. I would talk to them. I would try to pay them to have them teach me everything they could teach me. I'd want to learn all the mistakes they made. I learned everything that worked right. If they're willing to teach me, I would pay for speed. And guess what? Then I go to work and implement.
Yeah. We'd call it a squat up. It's a thing that Pace also kind of put together with Brent and Jamil, and the whole concept of it is really, I mean, reaching out and squatting up. I mean, if you feel you have a weakness, you don't have to become an expert at it. Squat up and then be able to reach out to somebody through, masterminds or groups, even, sit down in conversations. I mean, whatever you can do to cut that learning curve, to cut that, the time that you're going to spend spending money, making mistakes and just messing things up left and right. Find a way that, I mean, we're at a point now that we don't have to do it all ourselves. So.
Well, entrepreneurs don't do that. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you have a gift, you have your unique ability, and whatever that unique ability is, you're going to have a whole list of stuff you have to do. But, you're going to look at all those things in your job as an entrepreneur is to know them all, understand how everything operates, understand your unique ability, and aggressively, as fast as possible, generate as much revenue as possible. So you have the ability to hire out all those tasks, and you're only doing the things that you love to do in your most unique ability fashion, and everything else is hired out.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self before everything happened, and I mean, if I assume right, you were about to jump into the military and then branch out into the world, what piece of advice would you give that kid?
I would say advice that I wish I would have learned a long time ago is probably being a better saver at 17 instead of learning it late in life. Do you know what I mean? Because I tend to spend lots of money on the business. I go all in on the business side of stuff. So instead of aggressively saving like I do now, I would just put it all in. So I wish, and the reason why you save is not to save for compound interest in this and the other. Is to save is to buy cash flow real estate, right? Buy assets, real estate. They can turn around and produce most cash flow in your life and business and stuff like that. That's my opinion, I guess. I'm sure there's a lot of other people who are listening here probably have other different opinions to do with the capital that they choose, whatever that might be. For me, it's real estate because that's what I know. Anyways, the bottom line is that I wish I would have done that a lot younger age. That's what I'm teaching my kids to do. Save a portion, 10%, 20% of your income. If they can save more, save it, put it off to the side. And then when opportunities come up like this, I mean, do you know that right now, oil is at when it's all-time low? Oil is like $20 a barrel. Oil.
Yeah. Yep.
Crude oil. Right. Well, I mean, now it's up to 26, but crude oil is. So I have built a massive position in an oil stock right now, an underlying oil stock. And now it's come up from 20 to 26. So I know it's going to be back to, $40, $45 a barrel coming in. Mm-hmm. So when you see opportunities like that, you can build a massive position, and that happens to be stocks, and you can see opportunities. Well, guess what? There's going to be a wave of where there's going to be distressed houses that you can pick up for a lot cheaper. There's going to be apartment complexes right now that you can pick up for a lot cheaper, than they would be. Instead of paying $80,000 a door, you can pay $40,000 a door in a 100-unit apartment complex. It makes a whole difference in the P&L and the cash flow. So if I would have saw myself younger, I'd say, listen, stash 25, 30% of your income, whatever, and live on the rest. And look for opportunities when the market crashes like it did in 2008. Instead of being a victim, I could have came in and swooped up a ton of stuff. I mean, Warren Buffett's sitting on like $138 billion right now, waiting for the market to get as bloody as possible so he can come in and buy up everything.
Yeah, and I also know that he just bought a bunch of Delta stocks, so that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to giving yourself the opportunity to get lucky, right? Preparation and opportunity. I mean, kind of give for luck, quote unquote. but
yeah, or
build
just
out for it.
Yeah, and I mean, and just realize that, and we've been in such a bull market right now, is that if you position yourself to take advantage of, not really, I don't want to say take advantage, but profit during a downturn, then you know, I mean, that's where wealth's created. I mean, who's the owner of the Suns? I think his name is Mike Sarvel. But he owns the Suns. Well, he made his fortune during the savings and loan crisis. He bought land in Tucson. So he turned around and bought tons of land in Tucson for pennies on the dollar. I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of acres at literally pennies on the dollar, and owned all this. And then as the market came back, he sold it to developers, and he developed it himself, and he made hundreds of millions of dollars. Now he owns a bunch of banks, and he owns the Suns. So if you look at a lot of highly wealthy individuals, think about it. They're turning around and they're being able to, you know, have enough capital or access to capital where they can turn around and capitalize in times of
opportunity,
pain.
really, yeah.
Yeah, opportunity. Yeah, the world's going through. So.
Yeah, no, you've dropped a ton of golden nuggets, and yeah, I mean, sure enough, every time I talk to you, I walk away with a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't know. A lot of clarity behind it. I admire you as a person.
Meditate more.
Yeah, yeah. Super lucky to have been part of your team for a while there, and have had the opportunity to learn from you. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we've dropped you've dropped a bunch of stuff during the episode. So for those who don't know how to get a hold of you, where can we find you?
Yeah, the best place is to go to flip2freedom, flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com. You can go there, or you can find me on Instagram. I spend a lot of time on Instagram at flip2freedom, flip2freedom. Just find me on Instagram, follow me there. I go live pretty much every day on there. Post a lot of stories, a lot of stuff that's going on. So yeah, follow me those two places, and I'm around.
Yeah, if you guys want free information on how to make stuff work, that's actually how I found you. I started listening to your podcast from Todd Toback. So I found a guy in San Diego before I found you in my county, and his podcast sent me over to your podcast, and then I closed a few deals before we even met. Based on the information that you were giving out. So
you came in and
yeah. So
we worked together for a while. You crushed it. Still the top sales guy ever.
Thank you. So super honored. Well, there you guys have it. So we had Sean Terry just dropping bombs of knowledge, nuggets, and everything in between. You're getting it from the source. So Sean is a person who's been through it from the beginning. He's seen the lows of business. He's seen the super highs of business. He's lost it all, gotten it back together. I mean, there's stuff out there that you see in books, and it's no fluff. It's stuff that, it's work. For example, meditation, spending that time with yourself, and really coming back to the basics whenever you have to. It's all great advice that's coming directly to you from the source. So for that, thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate you. I love you, man, and keep doing your thing, man. Keep crushing it.
Boom,
baby.
Let's crush it, man. Thank you very much.
It's a wrap.
Appreciate it, man.
You just got a backstage pass to the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Make sure you follow us on YouTube and iTunes, and check out our website at ceopulse.com. Stay tuned, stay focused. You got this.